Hello students, welcome to the discussion of an important amendment in professional ethics. I would not say amendment, a topic that has been added in the discussion of professional ethics if you open up May 22 module, and that is the concept of NOCLAR, non-compliance with laws and regulations. So I want everyone to stay focused on these discussions. Students, as you know that in professional ethics, there are three different volumes, three different books, that three different documents that have been issued by Ethical Standard Board under the authority of the Council of the ICAI. And those three books are, first one talking about Code of Ethics, means what are your ethical requirements, like independence, integrity, objectivity, confidentiality. Second volume is all about the technical provisions, schedules, and all those sections and stuff discussion. And third volume is all about the case law referencer. So the very first book, the very first volume that they have issued is all the ethical part, that a professional accountant, chartered accountant, whether in practice or in service, need to follow. Inside that, there is this content of non-compliance with laws and regulations, which has become mandatory now to follow, at least in case of listed entities. The ICAI has taken a decision that whatever is given in that particular paragraph must be followed in case of listed entities, whether you are a CA in practice or you are a CA in service. So when you are reading this, my first request is that don't just think that you are conducting audit of a listed entity. For all chartered accountants who are either in practice or employed by listed entities, how they are supposed to deal with when they come across non-compliance with laws and regulation, that discussion is there over here. Yes, are you with me? All right, so quickly I will take you through all the discussions, but one disclaimer, no, I'm not giving disclaimer of opinion. One disclaimer before you continue with this video. It is very important that you have studied Essay 250. Essay 250, considerations with respect to compliance with the laws and regulations in an audit of financial statements. It is very important that you have studied that. Then you will understand the real flavor of how different this is, NOCLAR, non-compliance with laws and regulations. If at all you are suffering difficulties, see, this video is being recorded for in-house as well as YouTube. So for YouTube students, if at all you are suffering difficulties in Essay 250, I already have uploaded a video on Essay 250, which you can find on my YouTube channel. So once you are done with that, then look at this concept of NOCLAR, non-compliance with laws and regulations. Okay, so I have drafted some notes. Of course, you will find the notes in the description of this video. For in-house students, you have already been given these notes. Now, concept of NOCLAR, how you are supposed to study. I have given the sequencing stuff over here. All right. Okay. First of all, the applicability. Now, you know that our code of ethics, whatever you see in our code of ethics, is basically adopted from, mostly the things are adopted from International Ethical Standard Board of Accountants, which functions under the IFAC, International Federation of Accountants. So IESBA, yani ki International Ethical Standard Board of Accountants, makes NOCLAR applicable to all assignments in case of members in practice and to all employers in case of members in service. That is what IESBA says, not the ICAI. However, in the ICAI code as of now, Institute has restricted the applicability of NOCLAR to audit assignment of listed entities in case of members in practice, and for the members in service, applicability has been restricted to employees of listed entities. So ICAI currently talks about how you are supposed to deal in case of audit assignment of listed entities for members in practice and for members in service, if you are the employees of listed entities. However, in future, of course, they are going to expand this particular scope. Currently, it is restricted over here. That is why I said that do not just think like an auditor. Whether you are a CA in practice or CA in service, CA in practice providing audit assignment of listed entity and CA in service as an employee of listed entity, when you come across NOCLAR, non-compliance with laws and regulations, how you are supposed to deal with that. So first, let us try and understand what is NOCLAR. All right. When do you say that, okay, there is non-compliance with laws and regulations? So I will be just shuffling few points. Now look at this requirements, second point. Otherwise, you can read the notes. Everything is there in the notes, but I will be explaining all the material points over here. Requirement, second point. Non-compliance with laws and regulation comprises acts of omission or commission Either I omit something or I change something, yeah, whether it is intentional or unintentional, which is violating, which is contrary to the prevailing laws or regulations. Not following the laws, it could be an omission, it could be an error that you have committed, it could be a fraud that you have committed, it could be intentional, it could be unintentional, whatever it is. But if you are doing something that is contrary to the prevailing laws and regulations, then that is NOCLAR. Now, when I am a CA in practice and conducting audit of listed entities, or I am a CA in service employed by listed entities, what are the points that are supposed to be checked? That who has done this? By a client or professional accountants employing organization, so your employer. Those charged with governance, yeah, the people who are directing the entity of a client or employing organization. Management of the client or employing organization. Other individuals working for under the direction of a client or employing organization. Why they are using again this client or employing organization? Client or employing organization, it's an indication to you that do not just think like an auditor over here, all right, also think as like an employee of a listed entity. So if these people have committed it, if any of these people have committed it, and if you are aware about it, how you are supposed to deal with that, that is being discussed over here. Look at this. However, NOCLAR, an important clarification, however, NOCLAR under revised code of ethics does not address the personal misconduct unrelated to the business. Now, let us say director of the entity, of the listed entity, let us say that he was involved in some domestic violence, very bad person, a person who needs to be thrown out of the society, was involved in some domestic violence. Not related to the business, it's his personal affair. What he has done is wrong. Of course, there is a non-compliance with law, but not affecting the entity. So that such kind of personal misconducts are not discussed over here. Personal misconduct unrelated to the business activities of the client or employing organization, and non-compliance by parties other than listed out in the definition. So if there is a non-compliance, if non-compliance with laws and regulations, by whom? Come on, by the organization itself, by the client or the employing organization, by TCWG, by management, or the employees or any other individuals, the contractors, the agents who are working under the direction of the client or the employing organization, if they have done this, then you are supposed to consider it, and you are not going to consider their personal misconduct in case of NOCLAR. All right. So with respect to the business of the entity, if they have not followed the laws and regulations, you are going to consider that part. Just take an example, as if you are a member in practice, you are an auditor, and you see that GST laws have not been complied, or you are an employee and you see that GST laws have not been complied. Now both of them, how are you going to deal with that? All right. So that needs to be taken into consideration. That is why this NOCLAR is important over here. Okay. Now students, I am assuming that you are aware about SA 250. All right. Now in case of SA 250, the auditor is specifically asked, whenever he is conducting audit of financial statements, he is specifically asked to stick to such laws and regulations which can materially have a direct or indirect impact on the financial statements. So taxation laws, material direct impact on the financial statements, whether you talk about direct tax laws or indirect tax laws, direct effect on the financial statements. Labor laws also have great impact on the financial statements. Or let us say if you are conducting audit of an entity which is a manufacturing entity, and pollution control board has sent a notice to such entity that your pollutions are beyond acceptable level. Normally as an auditor, as per SA 250, we don't consider this. However, if this can lead to adverse consequences or cancellation of license and can have adverse effect on the financial position of the entity, then we are going to consider it. All right. Now that was SA 250. And as an auditor, how do you see compliance with laws and regulations? Because we cannot verify compliance with every single law and regulation. Now, when we look over here, NOCLAR, non-compliance with laws and regulations. Did I tell you that NOCLAR deals only with such laws which can have a material impact on the financial statements? No. Oh, so that seems to be the striking difference. That is one of the major differences. When you think as an auditor, you are like, oh my God, I've already done under SA 250 how to check compliance with laws and regulations. How this NOCLAR is different over here. Understood this? So you please see this NOCLAR versus SA 250. First point is very simple. SA 250 just directs the auditor, all right, whereas NOCLAR is applicable for professional accountancy service as well as in practice, all right. So that's okay, that's a basic point. But even if you are an auditor, still just because you have followed SA 250, that does not mean that automatically you have complied with NOCLAR, because SA 250 talks of auditors' responsibilities for laws having direct effect on the determination of material amounts and disclosures in the financial statements, and other laws that may not have direct effect but still can have adverse consequences on the financial position, but compliance with whom may be fundamental. This is SA 250 introduction. NOCLAR is covering everything that SA 250 covers, all right. In addition to that, is further ahead of it, and that takes into account non-compliance that causes substantial harm resulting in serious consequences in financial or non-financial terms. So let us say that you are the auditor of listed entity. You come across an assignment, you come across an instance, you come across an instance where you see that the food that is being given to the laborers is not up to the mark, and some minimum wages and stuff are not being paid. Some small non-compliances you have seen. Now, although the penalties may not be that great, although as per SA 250 these things may not have that great impact on the financial statements, and you may have ignored it as per SA 250, but can I say, if you measure it in non-financial terms over here, if the labor union goes on strike, if the if ministers and if the regulators, if they come to know about this, there can be some serious consequences. Are you getting my point? Yes, sir. So NOCLAR is not asking you to restrict yourself only to find out the effect of laws and regulations on the financial statements. Only if it is material effect, then you consider it and stuff. No. NOCLAR is simply NOCLAR, non-compliance with laws and regulations, which can have material effect on the financial statements or which can have some serious consequences either in financial or non-financial terms. That is the striking difference. Even if you're auditor, just because you have complied SA 250, that does not mean that you have complied with NOCLAR. Understood this? Okay. Now look at this. SA 250 does not define stakeholders. SA 250 does not clearly say that, okay, who will be affected with these laws and regulations, to whom you are accountable. NOCLAR clearly defines that, boss, the non-compliance can have an impact on investors, creditors, employees, as also the general public. But that's okay, not a major difference. Next, as per NOCLAR, in exceptional circumstances, the professional accountant might become, see, whenever they use the word professional accountant across the whole NOCLAR concept, they are talking about CA in practice, all right, as well as CA in service. CA in practice will serve clients, CA in service will serve employers. Currently, it is restricted for CA in practice who are conducting audit of listed entities and CA in service who have been employed by listed entities. So, in exceptional circumstances, the professional accountant might become aware of an imminent breach of law, means a clear major breach of law or regulation that would cause substantial harm to investors, creditors, employees or general public. Having first considered whether it would be appropriate to discuss the matter with management or those charged with governance, the accountant shall exercise professional judgment and determine whether to disclose the matter immediately to an appropriate authority in order to prevent or mitigate the consequences of such imminent breach. Boss, if you think, you have to exercise your professional judgment. NOCLAR allows you to do that. You have to exercise your professional judgment. And you have to think that, oh my God, if I keep on discussing this particular point with management and those charged with governance, and what if they finish off all the evidence trail, what if they wipe off everything, and what if they don't stop non-compliance with laws and regulations, let me straight away go to the respective authority and let me have a word with them. NOCLAR allows you to do that. SA 250 instead says that whenever if you think management TCWs are involved, or if you think that your communication may not be acted upon, please take a legal advice what you're supposed to do. Big difference. This provision is not existent in SA 250. So according to me, in my notes, 7.2 and 7.4 are the major differences between NOCLAR and SA 250. I am expecting such kind of question to elaborate on the differences between NOCLAR and SA 250. All right, yes sir. So what have I discussed up till now with you? That NOCLAR has become effective from 1st April 22 onwards. That NOCLAR ICAI says whatever you see over here, the requirements and the discussion is applicable for CA in practice conducting audit assignment of listed entities and CA in service who are the employees of listed entities. Then I told you what exactly is NOCLAR, not complying with laws and regulations, but who has not complied with it? These people. All right, till here you will be accountable. All right, because if some other people out of this list, if they because of their acts, if there is some non-compliance with laws and regulations, you know, we cannot go beyond a certain point. Then NOCLAR is not discussing about the personal misconducts of these people. Then I discussed that if you are an auditor of a listed entity, you may think that just by following SA 250 you have already complied with NOCLAR. Then you are wrong, because both of them are separate concepts. All right, and there are some differences. NOCLAR is SA 250 plus few points, that is 7.2 and 7.4. Yes sir, yes sir. Okay, now whether you are a professional accountant, CA in practice or a CA in service, there are some important clarifications which have been given over here with respect to NOCLAR. All right, this at least will make you a little bit a relieved person. Look at this. NOCLAR will be applicable if a professional accountant encounters or is made aware of non-compliance or suspected non-compliance. Means encounters means I came to know or someone told me. All right, is encounters, you came to know or someone told you of non-compliance or suspected non-compliance, means you think that there seems to be a non-compliance in the course of providing a professional service to a client. He is not required to investigate nor responsible for ensuring complete compliance. Please understand, it is about NOCLAR and not CLAR. You don't expect that I will force the management to comply with laws and regulations. I will advise them. If they are not complying it, I will fulfill my duties of reporting and stuff. All right, but you do not expect me to force them and get the law complied. Correct? I am not the person over here. That is the job of the police and judiciary. Next, a professional accountant is not expected to have level of knowledge of laws and regulations greater than that which is required to undertake the engagement. For example, if I am conducting audit of a telecom company, you can't expect me to know everything about spectrum utilization and bandwidth and stuff and all such technical laws of Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. Come on. All right, so you need to understand that I will be aware about the laws and regulations which are required for performing my assignment. Next, matters that are clearly inconsequential. Very important point. Matters that are clearly inconsequential. So you have to think about materiality. If the non-compliance is completely immaterial or relating to personal misconduct pertaining to business activities of the client, these things are not covered. As per ICAI Code, disclosure of the matter to an appropriate authority would be precluded if doing so would be contrary to law and regulation. See, if I disclose something in my report and that disclosure itself is prohibited by some law and regulation, then in that case I am not going to disclose it to you. All right, so if the disclosure itself leads to further non-compliances, let us say SEBI has asked you to shut up on some matters because some things are going on, some things are being investigated, then over there you are not going to say no, that I will disclose it in my report and stuff. All right, so disclosure of the matter to an appropriate authority would be precluded, means it will not be allowed if doing so would be contrary to law or regulation. So an important clarification over here. These set of clarifications will bring more clarity with what exactly this NOCLAR expects from you. And then finally, what are the steps to be taken for responding? You know, I have just tried to fit in on a single page to make you feel better. All right, but I'll just use this. What are the steps to be taken for responding? Responding means either you found NOCLAR or someone told you about it. All right, very simple. Try to understand the matter, try to understand what could be the effect, try to take a legal advice if you're not understanding the point. Look at this. Understand the matter, address the matter, consider the matter, seeking legal advices, determine what further action is required, determine whether to disclose this matter to an appropriate authority, imminent breach. If you think that there is going to be an obvious breach, there is going to be an immediate breach, you know, let us try and stop it. All right, you know that a major non-compliance is going to occur, let us try and stop it and let us act to the best of our abilities over there. Then Documentation, you need to maintain documentation. This documentation is addition to complying with the documentation requirements applicable to auditing standards, means you need to maintain a separate documentation for NOCLAR that you have complied with the requirements of NOCLAR. All right. For example, how management have responded to the matter, what is the course of action that the accountant considers, what are the judgments made, what are the decisions taken, then just think from the angle of third party whether you have actually discharged your duties or not. All right. Then how the accountant is satisfied, how do you think you are satisfied that the public interest over here is fulfilled. So students, let me be very clear, this is not a legal drafting as such where they have given you a clear flow chart of what you are supposed to do. It's a very clear drafting that these are the things, generally this is how we respond to NOCLAR, right, whenever we come across non-compliance with laws and regulations. So you can just read this 4 or 5 times and be comfortable with the discussions over here. All right, now the points that I have not touched, you may think that bro, he has written it in the notes but is not touching it, man. Come on, they have just given some examples of what would be covered in NOCLAR. Everyone is aware about this, we see it in media every day. Get this, you can just go through these examples. Then objective of NOCLAR is that, what is the whole objective of NOCLAR, why this concept has been introduced. Now since you know the concept, you are very clear why this has been introduced, so that to ensure, boss, that at least people are not turning a blind eye to it, correct? And at least you are not completely ignoring it. Once you come across this, you understand it is a bloody mandatory requirement as per code of ethics, and if you do not follow it, your degree could be under danger. So some pressure has been created on you to at least consider it, and you will not turn a blind eye. All right. Okay. So NOCLAR as of now, mandatory to audit assignment of listed entities and for members in service, who are employed by the listed entities. So that is the discussion of NOCLAR that is printed in your module. Also, I have tried my level best to ensure that all the material points are over here. Still, if at all you want to read it from the module, you can try once. All right, and you can just see it that they have given this nice chart of NOCLAR, that in case of audit engagement, how can I respond, in case of employment, how can I respond. All right, they have just given a chart, but broadly those are the points to be considered, which I just summarized in the 8th point. Okay, great. Then they have discussed about confidentiality, that you need to ensure that at least you are not breaching the confidentiality. See, what is the simple principle of confidentiality? Whether you are serving your client or employer, if you are under legal compulsion to disclose, you will have to disclose, correct? Otherwise, you have to take the consent and then disclose. Okay? But if you are under legal compulsion, you will have to put it up. Then the documentation requirements and done. Then there are other discussions of professional ethics which we do in our lecture. So please ensure that you are considering this NOCLAR discussions expected from May 22 attempt onwards, at least in May 22 or so. All right. Thank you so much.